Welcome to another episode of Culture 8 Podcast, brought to you by Zini, your trusted partner in building thriving workplace cultures. Here we explore the intricate and dynamic world of organizational cultures, uncovering insights and strategies to help leaders and teams to foster environments where people and businesses can grow together. Today is a very special episode for me. We are recording this as a joint digital event in collaboration with the Technology Association of Georgia Customer Experience Society. I'm part of it. I serve as on the board as the committee lead of culture and development, and it's an honor to host two of my fellow board members. Joining me today are Bruna Lopes from MJV Innovation and Santosh Subramanyam from Macy's. Bruna and Santosh, welcome to Culture 8. To start off, tell us a little about yourself and what is exciting for each of you these days.
Thank you. Thank you, Gaurav. First of all, thank you again for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. And also, it's a pleasure to be part of the Tag Sex Society, this amazing group of people that truly understand what we do when it comes about talking about CX, right? So, just a quick introduction. I am the innovation director at MJV. MJV is a global consultancy that leverages design and technology to enhance our clients' customer experience and ways of working. I'm based here in Atlanta, originally from Brazil. I'm a designer by training with a master's in digital transformation and with more than 10 years of experience in the CX field. And I think you were asking us about what is exciting right now. Right now, what is exciting me, it's like I'm also of a 8 months old baby. It's now my biggest challenge right now. And honestly, she teaches me more about human behavior than anything else in my career. So this is my exciting moment right now. And again, thank you for inviting me.
Phenomenal. Very powerful stuff. Santosh.
Very nice. Thank you for that intro, Bruna, as well. I thank you, first of all, Gaurav, for having me join you guys. I echo what Bruna said about Tag CX. We all are here for a reason, and it's always so nice to meet newer people, learn from newer domains, and then enhance my own knowledge, and then how I can actually feed off of what we all do together. Quick intro about myself. My name is Santosh Subramanyam, and I lead the enterprise product design and customer experience design teams at Macy's. For about 15 years, I've worked across retail, hospitality, automotive, and technology companies across the board, when I'm been helping larger, complex organizations design experiences that feel more human and connected. But the truth, in my approach to CX, I always go back and dig a little bit more. Is to start in a it's that it didn't start in a boardroom or a design lab. That's just what my principle is. I grew up in India where hospitality is in a service. It's very interesting to see we're global here at this point in time. Bruna comes from Brazil. I have a lot of people whom I work from Brazil too. We kind of cross-pollinate cultures and learn so much from each other. It's like a cultural reflex. You treat your guests like family. You anticipate needs before they're even spoken to you. There are unknown gestures that come when you actually see someone, and you show respect through how you make someone feel, right? That's all about CX. That mindset shaped me a long time ago before I even learned the words user experience or customer journey that we all talk about. It also has influenced how I lead, how I think about organizational cultures, and how I design experiences for our customers and colleagues. Whether I'm working on, our own experiences for the stores that I'm more focused on, or AI powered service flows, or any colleague tools that we build behind the scenes. For me, CX is simply hospitality at scale. And then you cannot deliver anything externally if you don't have a practice that is internally aligned towards that goal. So at Macy's, the connection between our culture and experience has become central to our work, and I'm so proud to be part of this organization. It comes from top down. Our CEO is very well invested in that, and that makes it even more exciting for us. And so I'm excited to spend this time today unpacking how CX and organizational culture shape each other, and why the brands that get it right design from the inside out.
Thank you both for sharing that. It's always inspiring to hear the work that you are doing and the perspective that you bring to our Tag CX society and the community. Since today, like you said, it's a joint episode between Culture 8 and Tag CX, we thought it would be meaningful to explore that exact space where our worlds meet. So let's dive into the conversation. Let me ask, many people treat customer experience and organizational culture as two separate priorities. How do you see them influencing each other in practical ways?
Do you want to go first or
Go ahead,
how?
Bruna.
Okay. I think customer experience is a reflection of culture. In a broader sense, to me, I mean, culture is one of the dimensions that shapes people, what people believe, how they behave, what they prioritize when no one is looking, right? Here, for example, we are from different backgrounds with different cultures that make who we are. So I think that all of that connects somehow in terms of the customer experience that we are providing to our clients, right? Inside of the companies, to me, for example, if the company culture encourages collaboration or empower the employee or create some sort of trust relationship, the customer in the end of the line will feel that also. Why? Because the employees, they will also, for example, they will probably solve problems faster, or they're going to be more thoughtful when they are interacting with the customer, or they're going to be like, they will looking for how they can solve the problem. And on the other hand, if the culture is sometimes overly bureaucratic or driven by internal priorities, driven by just numbers, customers also will feel that. Why? Because probably that company will have like long processes, inconsistent service, or the sense that no one is truly listening to them. So to me, in the end of the day, organizational culture and customer experience go hand in hand.
Fantastic. Santosh, you want to add?
Yeah, I'll be quick on that one. Really, piggybacking on what I said before about CX being an external expression of what your internal behaviors are, which is what kind of Bruna summarized in her own experience. I would actually put three things: how teams communicate becomes how customers experience handoffs.
Yes.
How leaders make decisions become how customers feel policies or prioritized. How colleagues are treated, like within our own, when I say colleagues, our own associates who work with us are treated, becomes how customers are treated. So it's like, I also worked for Marriott before. I'm going to quote this without fail, is that if you treat your customer, if you take care of your associates, they take care of your customers, and it in turn takes care of the business. That was Mr. Bill Marriott's mantra that he always said, and that kind of stuck even today. I see that same thing happening in my world across the board. So one last sentence about that is that you cannot design a great journey on top of a culture that doesn't support it. So CX is all about the expression that comes externally that you see is actually because of internal behaviors. And I'm blessed to be part of a great organization.
Phenomenal responses, folks. And when you started off saying Santosh, I wanted to bring that thought. Both of you are speaking about that main aspect, that the culture of the, so first of all, our subcultures, something to what Bruna was talking about, our macro cultures, the countries that we come from. You come from India, Santosh. I come from being exposed to multiple different cultures. Bruna, you have similar, you have strong Brazilian influence, as well as being in the United States. So we're all influenced by the values and beliefs of these different cultures, the macro cultures, and that impacts the way that we show up in our organizations as well. And to talk about how customers feel exactly the way the culture is inside, it's going to reflect outside to the customers. And that makes a whole difference whether the customer is feeling or client is feeling good about the company or organization or not. I had so you guys gave such amazing aspects, and leaders, yes, they different. The way they make their decisions is driven by the organizational cultures. And guess what? Where is that coming from? It's the leaders' basic values and assumptions that actually get and transformed to the entire organization. So fantastic, phenomenal responses. Let's move on to the next one. From your experience with culture patterns, or that we just spoke about the leadership behaviors, how do they tend to get in the way of building a strong customer experience?
I could go first. I have like three patterns that I always repeatedly see across industries, and I've seen in different companies without zeroing in on one. industry that I worked in. One is siloed ownership, right? Teams optimize their own part of the journey, not the whole journey. They're not aligned towards the global journey that you actually drive from top down. So customers will end up carrying the burden of navigating the gaps. Oh, we know there are gaps here in this customer journey, and that's not thought through just because of the siloed ownership. The next one would be something like fear-based decision making. When people are afraid to voice problems or experiences, CX stagnates literally at that point in time. So no one tries new things because they're worried of failure or even, getting punished for the fear of making a decision on somebody else's behalf. And the last one that comes to my mind is project thinking instead of journey thinking. It's not like it's just my piece of work. I'm going to get it done and push it out into the market or to the customer. And that will always have a lot of gaps, which never gets filled. Instead, you should think about the journey of what the customer does in its entirety. And that's when leaders fund projects or features, but ignore the transitions between them that unifies the whole journey that will actually remove friction from the customer experience. So most of the CX failures aren't design failures, but they're more of cultural failures. Like if you collaborate better, if you do better things, then you have a better success across CX.
Yeah, if I may add, I think under siloed discussion, also I think that I believe that doesn't contribute at all is like CX, it's the design job or the CX team job, or it is the innovation team job. No, it is all of us job. It is like inside of the company, the guy from finance should be thinking about the customer experience in the end of the day. The guy from HR should be thinking about when they are hiring someone, if that person always also appreciate the customer experience that the company will offer in the end of the day. We do have the problem, the siloed problem internally, like all the internal disconnections, but we also have the situation that is always someone else's job to take care of the CX experience, to make sure that we are offering a seamless journey. This is not someone else's job. This is everybody's job. And the second thing, it's about the obsession with numbers and hitting results. We all know that companies, of course, we need to be very careful with the investments and how we're gonna, plan out the year. But when it comes to fail fast, as you were mentioned, Santosh, CX requires us to try it. It requires us to change sometimes, and sometimes quickly change, pivot to something else. That doesn't mean that we're not going to generate results. That doesn't mean that we're not going to generate, that we're not going to impact in the end of the day inside of the business. So I think there's also a lot of confusions in terms of when it comes to the leadership, what kind of results CX can generate, even nowadays, that should be something that it's everybody knows, but we still face a lot of challenges in terms of how to convince sometimes that this will absolutely impact in the end of the day the results of your company. Of course, that's for retail, this is like the bread and butter. But for some other companies, like from financial institutions or from the health industry, sometimes it's tricky to get to that point with the leadership team.
Yeah, I think you touched one thing that I wanted to say. EX is employee experience, which kind of literally feeds into CX. And you said that so well. You hiring the right person, but it's not just hiring the right person. It's how do you hire that person? How are they welcomed in? How do you make them feel at home as
Yes.
part of the journey itself actually becomes part of what CX is outside of that.
And that pretty much is your organizational culture, right? The behavioral norms of how to face the challenges of external adaptation, right? So you guys brought amazing points, and I wish I could remember them and speak about them. So I'll try to take notes, as you can see. But you're hitting those points, which are what I speak to about with my own clients, and that is systemic thinking. You cannot just do one person's job. Today's the world is so complex and dynamic. Everyone pretty much has to not necessarily know the entire world that the other person brings or their profession that the other person brings, but they have to be closely in communication and collaboration so that it maybe, so for example, a marketing guy is present in the sales call and vice versa, or in the delivery calls and so on and so forth. And people are able to see the world beyond what they bring in their own profession, and enables them to create that point that you're making, to create a seamless customer experience throughout the organization, not just at one part of it, not just CX. Phenomenal. All right. So when a certain organization gets CX right, what culture traits and or internal mindsets do you typically see behind the scenes?
I can echo Santosh here again. Fail fast, learn fast. To me, is the first mindset that support this kind of right CX. I think the right CX is going to change for different companies and different industries, right? But I think the when we foster innovation mentality inside of the company, we are able to identify what is not working faster and try to pivot and try to change it and make it work. We foster an environment that where people feel safe to share their ideas, to help to accelerate the improvement or whatever we are discussing there. We help them to reduce wasted resources, wasting time. But also, it's a challenge to speak about failure inside of the companies because there is a stigma, right? People still, they don't, we are not saying that, oh, yeah, go ahead and spend the whole budget in something that we didn't even plan. It's not about that. It is about like support and foster a mentality that allows people to try and pivot and make it work, right? Without or reducing the wasted in resources, money, time, everything that is part of it. And also, I believe in consistency. If we are talking about customer experience, we are talking about multiple touch points. We are talking about a lot of different processes, channels, people involved. So how we can build a stronger trust with this client, with this customer or consumer, if we are lacking consistency, right? So I think it is a tricky combination between foster innovation, support people to try it and to bring in ideas, but also be consistent within your processes, how you communicate, how you plan, how you your whole journey within your customer.
Spot on.
Yeah. Um, More to add, this is more of psychological safety to what Bruno just mentioned. Someone wants to speak up and admit what's broken and propose ideas without fear. That is where the cultural traits actually thrive. And so we encourage you to do that so that we know what's broken, because everyone's goal is to get it right, improve the CX. That's the whole point, right? And the next one is how you give the ownership of journey with everyone. It shouldn't be, again, it's mine versus yours, tech versus finance, that you already mentioned as examples. It's not that. It's that people see work as part of their shared outcome and not just, and we all do that very diligently. We're still trying to improve on that one, and more as we start noodling through different people coming into that fold, right? The last one I feel is operational empathy that you should always have. It's not just theory, it is in practice that it is followed. And that's where consistency comes back to what Bruno just mentioned. How can you drive consistency at scale? With especially with an organization like ours is so huge with so many people in the mix. So it becomes that leaders and teams have to understand what customers and frontline employees actually experience, and to
Yes.
do that, you have to spend more time with them. Just walk the walk, and then you will see what's happening. And then you'll come back and say, I now know the pain. So we're going to go and fix that and change that outcome. So it's always like great CX comes from cultures and rewards curiosity. You should always reward curiosity. That is the innovation that you talked about, Bruna. It's not perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the common theme, and I've actually written an article about this, and it strongly correlates to the fact why psychological safety is important. And guess what? That actually is the key to improving innovation. So if an organization is missing innovative opportunities, that's because their psychological safety it needs improvement. And that's a huge part in it. In fact, two of the things that you mentioned, psychological safety as well as the decision making seat at the table, allows for a bigger advantage, and that's engagement, the employee experience. It improves on that. The more people are allowed to, not necessarily like you said, Bruna, to fail freely, you fail, but you learn fast and you adapt to execute at a better way or better strategy, better plan. So, you know, moving on, there's a saying that you can deliver what you don't experience, and something to what you might have just mentioned. How do you see employee experience shaping the consistency and the quality of customer experience?
Again, I think ties back what we just mentioned, right? If you feel heard, if you feel supported, if you feel that it's the environment, you can trust the environment, you can trust the leadership, then probably naturally you're going to pass that forward, right? Naturally, you're going to probably have more pride in the way that you represent the brand or the company. You're going to be more motivated to work around the processes and the challenge that you may have. And at the same time, if you feel, I don't know, overwhelmed or undervalued or ignored, I don't know, right? If you don't think there is a space for you to contribute, how are you gonna wake up every day and think about how I'm gonna make this company improve their customer experience if you are not even happy, right? So again, I think ties back directly what we just mentioned it.
Yeah, I call it employee experience as a rehearsal for your customer experience. You are seeing the rehearsals like weddings have rehearsals. You just want to test it out and see everything is fine, everybody's aligned. You get the point. But removing the friction that our employees face with maybe outdated tools, maybe unclear expectations, anything that you see, it kind of touches downstream, and the impact is immediate. So you can never miss that part. When the employee experience or employee experience means that employees are supported, trusted and then equipped with the right set of tools and customer facing interactions, then they feel really very empowered to do what best they bring to the table. You're right, we should get up in the morning and feel pumped, and I'm going to say this out of my own experience, that every time I go to the store, you will see that energy come in the morning, especially well, our stores start at 10 a.m. for most part of it, give or take. Different geographies a little different, but mostly 10 a.m. So we go at 8 a.m. in the morning just to do a lot of testing and talk to our store or frontline colleagues. They just come and they have a morning ritual, and you participate in that. I've done that so many times. It just tells me, oh my God, they're so energized every day. They do this day in and day out, and the passion just comes out. You can see that.
Um, I think again we've spoken about this question. So, what role does leadership play in setting the culture that supports the meaningful customer experience work? And what behaviors from leaders? Actually, this is a very important point I want to learn about. What behaviors from leaders make the biggest difference?
Yeah, I can just start off. I'll say they, as leaders, including myself, I mean, everyone's a leader. It's not about the title in here. Please, I just want to make sure that that's clarified. Leaders actually model the behavior they want the organization to practice. You need to live that, empathy, curiosity, transparency. You have to embody them, and otherwise teams won't. Otherwise, you're not giving it away. It's like giving positive energy, giving aura, the best ones that you want to bring in front, and you have to embody that. They remove friction. If there's any friction, that's where they come in, and then they step in and say, what can we do? Don't ask the teams to be customer centric when you have friction that exists, right? They redesign the processes, workflows, they adapt to what needs to be done right, so that the outcome is more customer centricity. And the last one, I always remember this one, is that you need to stay close to the customers in the front line. And that's why I said, in my work, I've been in different industries, different ways of working, but in most cases, I've found ways to be more close to the customers or the frontline workers. In my automotive experience too, we used to go to the dealerships and visit. customer. We sit and observe how customers actually buy a car, and what do the frontline employees within a dealership, what struggles do they have, so that we could actually build better experiences for them. At the hospitality company, which is Marriott, I worked, it's the same thing. We used to have hotel immersions. We would spend days in the hotel to see what does a frontline colleague of our Marriott properties go through in a day, and that would be like 3 days. We did the same thing at Macy's. This one is even more close to me. I almost am there every week, so we see what happens on the floor, and they're always smiling and doing an amazing job. But then you just learn so much of where you can actually step in and help them.
No, I mean, I think 100%. Uh, MJV At MJV, we are invited to help, right, to facilitate a lot of strategic plannings. And the first thing that we always say is leave the office. Leave the office. Go outside. Talk to the frontline teams. Talk to the customers. Live the day in a life if you want, because you can see sometimes a huge disconnection between the what leadership is deciding or discussing internally inside of a room and what is happening in the reality on the floor. So leave the office, it's our like first sentence in whatever strategic planning that we are facilitating, because we know that the daily routines and the day consume a lot. And sometimes, if you are not directly involved with the CX itself, with the whatever touch point, sometimes you start to disconnect from what is happening, from the insights from the customer, what the consumer wants in the end of the day, what jobs we are trying to get done in the end of the day. So I think really live the experience. I think it is the first thing. And I agree also with you. It's not about what we say, but what we do, right? So again, I think there is a lot of things a lot of different behaviors that we can take from leaders to make the difference. But also internally, when it comes to the employee experience, recognize your people, celebrate with them, see what they are doing, not only in terms of, not on the bottom line in terms of money, right? But the human experience, what they are bringing to the table, what is motivating them. So it's easier to connect the outside and the inside if you are, navigating from the beginning of the journey until the end of the journey, right?
Yep, absolutely. And you talk about, again, you're bringing out the importance of systemic thinking. So, few more things that I wanted to add. First of all, Santosh, phenomenal aspect that yes, we are not creating just people followers, we are creating leader situation. Something which I really focus on when I speak to my clients as well. Don't create environments where people are looking to follow you. You need to create an environment where they will lead you to that next situation. Two things that you guys both said, one thing each that you said, two aspects: model the behavior, walk the talk, lead by example, and the other aspect of rewarding and allocating resources. These are two major ways that leadership can use out of the 6 ways to, and really powerful daily behaviors to embed the organizational culture that they want to see in their organization. So leaders, if you're listening out there, please pay attention. This is very important. One thing about close to customer and frontline workers that you mentioned, Santosh, and maybe Bruna, you can also chime in. Uh, we speak about, as organizational culture consultant, we speak about 4 kind of relationships. There's zero, which is jailer jailee, there's no trust. There is transactional. The most of the United States, we work in a transactional method way of working. We do business, we are done with the relationship. And then there's the second one where it comes to, I trust you, you trust me, I've got your back, you've got my back. And we get to a little bit more personal in our lives, not necessarily sharing everything and anything context based, but the ability to make closer relationships. And third one is obviously the intimacy with parents, your spouses, and so on and so forth. Do you believe level 2 relationship is where we need to go to increase the customer experience?
I think it's part of it. I think when you build trustful relationship, of course, that people are already counting on you. And even if you fail, even if you fail, they will move forward with you because they believe that you are trying to do the best, right? Or
Yes.
you're trying to solve the challenge, or you are trying to, decrease the gaps, whatever, right? And so trust and relationship, bring it in that, right? But if you, of course, deliver very well, if you, in the end of the day, you can achieve what you propose, I think it is the combination, right? Because we can have a great relationship, we can build an amazing relationship, but in the end of the day, if the delivery is not getting there, we're gonna still have problems. Probably it's gonna affect the relationship, right? So I believe that yes, build the relationship will allow us to trust, to create a loyalty, or make sure that if we fail, you're gonna be able to forgive us or help us to improve. But also we need to also keep continuously improving the delivery that we are putting outside.
Absolutely. Solid point.
And I've seen one more thing to mention about trust. Trust actually helps you deliver better because you're first building that relationship to get the buying the trust, and trust doesn't happen easily. Examples like if you come down to delivering an application that has to go into our stores, for example, if I'm not collaborating and building that trust with my partners, especially technology or product, then they wouldn't trust me. And when I go to the store and come back and say I have information that we need to change something to do something differently, then they would trust me. And that is what will drive the outcome. It is outcome, but it's a collective journey. It's not like I'm saying this, you should do it, but I'm bringing them along the way with me by saying we are doing it. There's no I, there's the we are going to do this. And it's a collective effort. And that's where culture actually changes completely. When you remove the I and we put the we, there's magic.
I love it. So I'm also certified to do leadership circle profile assessments for leadership, and it's based on and it's not my tool, but it's some other company's tool, but it's based on human stages of development. And guess what? At the lower bottom is the 11 reactive tendencies, and at the top are 18 creative competencies. But the transition is in the earlier stages of our life, as we are young and kids, we are thinking all about ourselves. But the transition into creative spaces where we start to think power with the people rather than just myself individually. So phenomenal. Sorry, I tricked you guys into answering that question because it just made sense to talk about it. Is not something that we had thought about before. But so moving on, we touched a little bit about metrics, and I totally believe in you. The story of is more important. The learning is, but CX is actually full of metrics like NPS and customer satisfaction scoring. How do you two see that it's being balanced as data and again, trying to maintain that human centered culture?
I mean, metrics are actually signals. I actually treat them as signals. They're not the experience. They're just the signals. And then what they'll tell you what is happening from the numbers. It's like, oh my God, you didn't cut to the, certain target that you had, or you did not achieve a certain level,
Hmm.
but not why. That's the question, right? And then that's what the human centered culture does both. That's what it does. So you always use the patterns. We always use data to see patterns. And then we use empathy in research to understand what's behind those patterns. In tactical terms, if you are just seeing the metrics and saying people are not doing something for a reason, and that's why we need to actually change our experience or change our software, we have to give a new tool. Instead, if you go observe them a couple of times, you'll see why they're not doing it, because there was something that you missed in that journey that they're now shortcutting by not doing it. So that gives you that human centered way of understanding what is a behavior that will change your outcome at some point.
Sweet. Bruna, I'd love to hear your perspective as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think metrics should be a tool, not the end goal, right? Should inform decisions, not dictate the decisions. And I 100% with Santosh on this. Human-centered culture looks at numbers throughout the lens of people. So if we are not able to understand the reasons why, the motivations, or the behavior behind the scenes or the needs or unmet needs, we are probably also assuming a lot of things based on the numbers, right? Because we don't know the whys. We just know the number, the fact, right? Oh, this month X percentage of the customer kind of evaluate as bad. Why? We don't know. And then we're gonna start to assume a lot of things. And it's fine. At some point you can create a lot of hypotheses. But then, if we're not able to combine, bring it in the hypothesis, to test it out, to understand, to cross that with the frontline insights, with the customer point of view, with real stories, probably you're going to take a lot of time trying to solve a problem that you don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah. Uh, Beautifully.
To me, metrics matter. I don't think human-centered architecture and human-centered design. I'm a designer, right? So people usually they think that we don't pay attention to that, but this is not, this is not true, right? Of course that data matter to us. That data matter to us to better understand the reality, the context, the environment, but how we can combine that with real stories, with insights, with customer perceptions to be create actionable plans or roadmaps or ideas, right? So I think it is not this without that. I think it is a combination between both of them.
Beautifully put, both of you. Phenomenal stuff. I mean, we talked about, right? If metrics, first of all, Santosh, exactly that. Metrics are a tool for me to realize it's the health points. It's to
Yeah,
understand. Right.
it's just like our heart rate. Like you're just monitoring your heart rate. You know the numbers, but you don't know why it's high or why it's low, right? Then you need to actually start thinking, what am I eating? What am I doing in a day? How's my stress level? Those are the things you're monitoring and observing, and then you're making notes of, and then you can go and then work with your doctor to say, where should I fix it?
Exactly.
What should I not eat? What should I not? It's just an analogy. And that's why I feel it's a sweet spot when you put it that way. It's a data detects curiosity of your curiosity as to why this is failing or winning, but the humans direct you towards making the right decision.
Yeah, I love it. And Bruna, what you brought about the stories, it's so impactful because they will have more impact when you start speaking about stories to, let's say, levels which are between, moving away from the customer, but you bring these stories back into the fold, to the company. That makes them relatable to the people in marketing or to the people who is in development, to making user experience or a customer experience. So one thing I'll leave, and then we'll move into the rapid fire questions. Is, have you heard of the gentleman called Eli Goldratt? So he's got a famous saying: "Tell me what you will measure me on, and I will behave accordingly." Right. So it says it all a lot. I love using this, especially in terms of metrics and stuff. I've actually written this in my article as well, exactly the points that you've mentioned. But so moving on to my favorite round, beyond the phenomenal conversation we just had, what books do you recommend the most, Bruna?
I think inspired by this conversation here, I would change my mind. I think a book, The Cultural Map by Erin Meyer. I don't know if you guys know.
I know her.
They
I know
explain
her.
about the dimensions. They explain like real life examples of decoding communication and across cultures, right? So I
Yes,
think it's a very interesting one for wrap up this conversation here today.
phenomenal. Santosh.
Yeah, I have a couple, but then I'll take two of them that's favorite for me. One is The Power of Moments by Chip and Dan Heath, which talks about how CX is ultimately about engineering meaningful moments. It's not
Okay.
just what we do. And the other one is even more closer to my heart because it touches hospitality. It's Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. If you've ever read that, it's really nice. It goes deeply into personal, memorable experiences that you create, and that's what lives in somebody's memory. And when I normally do keynotes, and I've done many, I always go back and say how Disney creates that memory that goes from grandpa to pa to the little kid that is now experiencing the same thing, but then all the three generations can sit in that same ride and relive that memory. How do they actually elevate that experience through different newer technologies and everything? But the story that lives in their mind is what that hospitality is all about. There's so much you can unpack in that book, but that's one of the best books that I would recommend. Read.
I love Chip and Dan Heath. I've read one book of theirs, How to Make Change Happen, Switch, to make change happen when change is hard. It's one of my Bible books. I love reading through that. It's amazing stories. And of course, Erin Myers. I don't know if you've read, I haven't read her books yet. I have to. There's tons of books that I have to read. If I show you my library, I think it's probably going to be similar as yours. There are too many books in there. But she wrote another book with Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, No Rules Rules, and that's supposed to be one amazing book as well. I love to use her analogy of an organization more like a tree, where the roots are your leadership, which is providing context and the boundary to the trunks and the branches, which are your managers and executive leadership, providing clarity in those boundaries and context. And then you have the leaf node, the frontline people who've got the maximum information basically because they are dealing with the customers. And that's where she talks about, that's where the multi-million-dollar deals should be happening because they have maximum information. No use pulling the information up or down to the root level and have the CEO make decisions. No, it's something which I talk about a lot in organizational culture is decentralization, because think about the immunization cells. There's no CEO for immunization. It's just the local cells start to attack as soon as they observe the infection coming in, and then they start to adapt by changing whatever temperature, etc. and stuff. So sorry, I always love to talk about this topic. What's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Well, I'm addicted to series. So I watch everything from dramas to, documentaries, comedies. I don't have like, oh, I only watch this.
Yeah.
So if you guys that are listening to us have a show you love, send me your recommendation.
Oh, excellent.
That's a good one. Yes, it's my turn. About addicted to news, if I may say, I don't think people probably know or don't know, but what many of them, and except some of my friends, knows that I'm a trained musician. I come from a family of musicians and artists, and I've composed music for teleserials, television, radio, professionally recorded. But it's something that I've cherished in my life. I don't do this anymore actively, but that's something that many of them don't know. At least here in the U.S. in the last 20 years that I've lived.
Sweet. Well, Bruna,
Very
I would
nice.
say
Next one, sorry, Gaurav. Next
yes,
one, we're
please.
gonna discuss about music
I love it.
and the and the CX because there is a lot of relation on there
Yes,
although.
Yep, yep,
totally.
totally. And I would say, Bruna, you're all right in my books as long as you like sci-fi series.
I mean, some of them, right? Some
Some
of
of
them
them.
are not that good.
Yeah, I don't think I was much of a fan for Stargate, but Star Trek, yes. Star Wars series, whatever they come, Mandalorian, this is the way. I love that kind of stuff. Very cool. Awesome. Um, I would love for our listeners to know how could they connect with you two.
LinkedIn?
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
would
think
echo the
about it,
same
but I
thing.
think
I'm all over LinkedIn all the time. I can on my phone. If somebody connects, please feel free to send your questions or connections, and we can talk. Always happy to talk CX, design, leadership, anything, music. Now that I've said it, more. Yeah.
Yes, I am. I mean, so I'm going to be tagging you guys when I do the LinkedIn post. So the listeners, you have their tags from my post. Of course, their names will be available. You can search them up. So fantastic stuff. This has been a very powerful conversation, Bruna and Santosh. Thank you for sharing your insights and bringing the depth of your CX and culture experiences to this special episode. It is always a privilege to learn from peers who are about creating these workplaces where both people and customers feel valued. To our listeners, thank you for joining us. This collaboration with Tag Customer Experience Society reflects something that we believe at Izini. The way we treat our people shapes the way they treat our customers, and culture and CX always move together. If you enjoyed this conversation, stay connected with us. Follow Culture 8 on Spotify or YouTube so you never miss an upcoming episode, and stay engaged with the Tag CX community at LinkedIn for more events and content throughout the year. We appreciate you spending your time with us today. Until next time, keep building cultures where people and businesses and customers can grow together. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. Thank you,
Thank you.
Bruna.